Okay, hello again. Two on the trot. Good lord, what's happening? Okay, more mapping today. So I'm gonna do the second part of Crown City. I think what the idea is that I'm gonna ink it all in. I inked it. I inked the lower city, and then I'm gonna scan them all in, and then I'll ink this one today. I'll ink the Caldera tomorrow, maybe, and then I will go through and maybe explain it all on screen or something as a screen share or something. I don't know, but yeah, thought I would get back into it, keep a bit of momentum going, and this is what I've got going on now. So this is a different. This map is about, I think it's about 3 years old now. Done in one of my old A3 art journals. So this is the innards of the mountain. I'm wondering if one of the main things I need to get is a better, like a proper overhead webcam with a different field of view. But anyway, because I'm just using a dingy old iPhone, as you can probably see in the top of the thingo now, the top of the shot there. But anyway, so hopefully you can see all of this. It is fairly fine, but just thought I'd get started, see how it all might start out doing the top part of this. So the idea here is that and this is like this first part that I'm inking in, that's the actual caldera, or the bottom of the pan of the caldera, if you want to think of it like that. And this, what I'm doing here, is all underneath. So these are the under tunnels. These are the trade tunnels, as I call them. The CBD, where most of the business of the town, the city, is conducted. And there's a fairly, like, you'll see it better, but there's a fairly intense series of bridges and islands and stuff, because there's a whole, like, all of this is river. This is the stream, and there's a series of locks: first lock, side lock, mid lock, and last lock. So it's a series of locks that sort of allow the water level to go up, and they can control the stream. And off we go. And that's how they get their goods up and down from the caldera. So it's a fairly, like, I'm pretty good at making things too hard for myself with my world building, because it can't just be a simple town. It's got to be a crazy volcano city. But that's another part of it, isn't it? You know, I see so many of these. Like, don't get me wrong, I do love a good pastoral town. I do like a a nice farming village. I like a good castle as much as the next lumpy white guy. But you got to make it interesting sometimes too. And make it, put in, I think what, don't get me wrong, there is a place for like solid sense-making world building, but there's also a place for the craziest stuff. And even then, like having a town in a volcano, an extinct volcano, caldera, isn't even necessarily. I think I buggered that one up a little bit. I think I crossed the wall there when I wasn't meant to. That's okay, it's pretty complicated in here. Even then, having a city in an abandoned caldera isn't even that crazy, to be honest. That should just be like it makes sense, right? It's a good defensible position. It's elevated. You'd have to fight through all of these tunnels. So the idea is that the caldera is where all the rich people live, and it kind of goes up from there, funnels upwards, or not funnels upwards, but widens outwards from that central part there. And these are all the tunnels that have been excavated to facilitate going down into these will all be abandoned lava chimneys and things like that. If you look at volcano, not architecture, but geography, I think it is. There's lava chimneys and all sorts of pyroclastic fun going on in them. It's not just a single mass. So that's what these all are. And it's kind of a combination of natural and maybe I might use a now things in my head are starting to stack up. They're overlapping what I'm saying. I'll use a thinner pen for all of the houses, I think, and just run the outline in this. Learning about line weight. See, this is another thing. Like learning about line weights and stuff. Like when you're writing, you don't have to worry about stuff like that, really. Even yesterday when I was inking in the buildings, I was learning a few things. So yeah. What else was I gonna say? Not much, really. Just gonna... Sure it'll come back to me. So yeah, just gonna go around all the... So the geographical borders is what we're going to do here, or the edges, the walls and the shores. We'll do the buildings in a 0.1 or lighter, I think. There's always places for weird stuff. In the world, you know, it's almost like a central thesis statement that the adventurers get paid the big bucks because they deal with the weird stuff. You know, there seems to be a strange attitude in some people where it's like, no, I'm the hero of the story. I don't want to have to deal with any of the weird stuff, but I'm still the hero. It's like, yeah, no, you get paid the big bucks and you're the hero because you go and deal with the weird stuff. But then the catch is that weird stuff doesn't just exist in all of the weird places of the world. Sometimes weird stuff, I mean, what is weird to a barbarian savage from out in the sticks is perfectly normal to a middle class merchant living in a city. Alright. Oh, forgot the glove, didn't I? These gloves, I'll tell you what, these gloves are... I actually used these, I got like a 4-pack of these or something when I started using the tablet that I have, drawing on the screen. I got a couple just out of curiosity, and they were great. And this one actually came with was a free add-on for, forget what it was. Might have been a pack of nibs or something. And it's actually one of the nicer ones. Not that the other ones are bad. I don't want to disparage any producers of artists' gloves out there. You're all valued members of the community for my money. But no, I think I just ordered them maybe a size too small, and they do fit, but yeah, this one's very comfortable and roomy, so I try and use this one. I mean, even then, this is the first time I've put this one on. Well, second time from yesterday. This is the second time I've put it on in, 6 months or something. I find this quite it's not even like, it is meditative, but it's I find it more satisfying to just kind of run through all of these little bits and pieces and just see how they go. Like, I can definitely, like, cross-hatching. I've always been fascinated with cross-hatching, how it can, you can create, like, texture and even, like, the implication of, like, colour and colour changes and things like that. Just with the use of lines, I definitely get the appeal of it. Alright. How's it gonna go? Whoa, that was pretty good. Hey? Big long. Big long. And now I'm probably. Let's. Whoa. Oh, oh. Yeah, there we go. Oh, that was satisfying. I'm getting better. I'm getting better. I'm working on it. Yeah. So I worked out there's probably, I think there's about, I don't even know what I told my players. I think there's about 4,000 people in the lowest city, what I did yesterday. And then there's the same amount within the, there's the same amount again within the like the outer city limits, like the people who are living out in the like outside the limits of what I did yesterday. Just spread throughout maybe 3 to 4 times that amount of land again. So like a quarter of the population density outside that, like in the farmland and the hills and that sort of thing. And then there's I think there's maybe about 10,000 people in here living in the under tunnels, the trade tunnels. And one of the interesting things about Australia, and I'll be sort of talking about this, like I'm hoping this is like an ongoing thing that I can sort of go on with. This is just the start. I've got like stuff that I've got to do on Wonderdraft and all sorts of things, but I'm going to be describing or sort of going into, you know, the world building process and all of that, just once again as a way of marking progress mainly, as well as sort of actually making progress, because it's motivating. I felt quite satisfied yesterday after I finished things off, and hopefully I think I made my little list. There were, you know, kept on coming up with a thing on the stream about low keyframes. Geez, it's all a bit of a mess in here. I might just leave that for the lighter line weights. Better to be safe than sorry. I can always go thicker later, can't I? Rather than doing it thick first and wishing I had done it thinner. See, learning. Cyberdyne Systems 101. He's a learning computer. He's a learning computer. Sorry for disparaging the grand legacy of Terminator the Second there. Yeah. But I'm hoping to go through like the process and the rules. So the idea is, I've found it useful to have, there's like core design rules that you follow over all of your work when you're doing this sort of stuff. And then there's world rules that you do per world, and that's where you're trying to close or fill in some of the gaps between the system and the aesthetic of the world and all of that, and try and, so it's like a core design rule for me. The first one is always be weird, don't be bad, and it's it was actually really, we're really well encapsulated in Merc Borg's sort of stuff. And I've been following this year for a while, but the guys who did that put it really well when they were like, look, you make it dark, make it depressing, make it weird, make it, make your, like, I sort of think of it as feel free to explore transgressive content, but don't be bad. Like they said, like, stay away from the bigotry and the sexism and the ableism and the, don't be homophobic or transphobic or any shit like that. Like, so, and that's, to me, like, I love, like, my players know I love getting like super weird and stuff like that, but I'm not a huge fan of depicting horrible weird stuff in a, like, that makes fun of or disparages real world problems. You can just do without it. But anyway, that's like a core design philosophy of mine, which has a whole bunch of I've built that over, quite a few years. But anyway, and then, like, one of the world rules for Straya is divide by nations, and in this case it's basically kingdoms or states or whatever. I think it ended up where there were 9 states. There's slightly more states in Straya than there are in real life Australia. And not by race. So I don't have, like, I'm talking about all of this because in this particular, this is all subterranean, right? This is on the bottom, like, there is that point there. I don't know if you can see it. Yeah, you can't. So where I'm pointing there, that little gate there is that's the entrance to the mountain. And it's the river there. That's the point where it flows out into the larger part. I'll link it all up later. But this is all subterranean in the middle of a mountain. And of course, the tropey brain goes, oh, well, it'll be dwarves in here, dwarves and gnomes. And it's like, nah, that's, like, when I think about it, that's not how a city would operate. There'd be all sorts of, like, it wouldn't make that much of a difference that it was subterranean to me. Races for too long have just become a way of, like, being, like, de facto Um, it's, and this is another thing. It's called. There was a tweet about it. I might go and find it, but like capital PW proper weirding, where you actually make things properly fantastical and not just. It's not just having like the dwarves be stand-in Vikings, or Scotsmen or whatever, and it's not just having Cockney orcs. Um, I think of like the Warhammer universe, like that's very much like they've done a pretty good job at just having, yeah, like stand-in nationalities um, as races, or like always having a dwarfish blacksmith. It's like, no, give me something different. Proper weirding. Make it crazy, make it weird. And in the space between the real, like, or the like, and in trying to make sense of it in your own head or whatever, that's where the interest lies. Like, don't, yeah. That's my take on that. Like, so yeah, there's actually, like, there's all sorts of people in here. Um, because it's a working community. Like, always, like, and the idea that the seed of that idea came from me thinking about, like, look at how diverse humanity is in the real world. And that's with one race, right? That's with humans as a race. And look at how wonderfully diverse we all are. And now imagine if we had, how many races are there in your stock standard dragon game? What, there's like 9 races or something? 9 stock standard races? Imagine how wild that would get. Like, that's, to me, it's, and don't get me wrong, like, I've probably overthought this a bit because this is the sort of stuff that I'm doing with a lack of job and or real big boy job and all of that. I might have had more time than the average to think about it, but that's like, it's a pretty, to me, that's not like some secret knowledge to try and suss out. That's just, it literally took me just a few moments to go, yeah, humans. I mean, humans are a pretty diverse bunch, and it all adds to the flavour of life. It's cool as, how we're all different. And I mean, don't get me wrong, just because we're different doesn't mean we're all good. And I mean, I'm talking about things like Nazis and, maps and all of that sort of, like, stuff that has a moral, like a legitimate moral, not like, people are just trying to live, man. That's my take on that. Not that you're watching for social commentary. But yeah, just thinking about it like that, and then going, so what if we had like nine different kinds of things like that, and then throw in things like magic and what that could mean, and it just, like, to me, that's where the power of it lies. Like, you're expanding your thoughts, right? I mean, that's another, you get these horrible people that for some reason they go, yeah, look at all of this, wonderful, magical fantasy land. Now let's, like, just limit it to our narrow little belief system and persecute people based on that. And you sort of just go, what the fuck, Anyway, yeah, so that's the whole idea there. I think I've done all of the side stuff. All right. So I'm going to go down to a 0.01 for all of the other stuff. What's that taken me? Half an hour. Yeah, right. I mean, it goes all right once you. Doesn't actually take that much time once you get stuck into it. Don't know if I'll. Once again, the labels are going to be tough to sort out. I don't know if I want to do all the labels, but anyway. Little mushroom grove there, I think. So you can't really see like, you can see my pen. Maybe I need to. Is that better if I just do it like that? Maybe that's. I mean, it doesn't really matter which way I ink it, does it? Like, it's all going to get done. Or will it? Or will it matter how I ink it? I guess it would matter if I was doing the labels. I can't really write sideways that well yet. Although, I have seen some left-handers who just flat out write sideways normally. It's pretty wild to me. But, I mean, this makes it easier to fit everything in, doesn't it? See, we're learning. But I also might need to be able to zoom in. That would be nice. I used to have an old video camera that had a zoom button on it. But it was hard to get working with OBS. And it was... what was the deal? It was hard. I only got it working with OBS once. Got it to actually preview. And then it refused to do it ever again. And it was creating enough of a barrier. That's the other thing. And I used to have the iPhone as the face cam. And I ended up just going, you know what, bugger it, let's just use the iPhone as the overhead and use the GoPro. Even though the GoPro gives you... I mean, it is a little bit of a weird field of... view, and it is distorted. It's got that awesome GoPro-ness about it. But hey, whatevs. It's a start. The main thing is it's a start, right? That's the main idea. And who knows, I might end up buying a couple of webcams and just having a proper field of view, because there's other things that I'd love to do. I mean, the reason I didn't buy a GoPro just to have it as a webcam, but it is what happens to work the best right at the moment. Once again, doing this on a budget is a bit of an experiment, or a bit of a trial, one might even say. But there's other things I'd love to do. Hang it out the window of the car and do driving videos and things like that. Which is sort of what getting a webcam would allow me to do, because it's all about ease, right? Like when it's all set up like this, it's like, yeah, no, off we go. It's just a matter of like rebooting the computer to make sure everything works, and then off you go. But if it's like the video camera that I had, like having to work that out every time I had something to do with streaming, it was just enough of a stumbling block to like mess me up. Ooh, buggered that up a little bit. Oh well, that's okay. Just lay it all down one by one. It's getting there slowly. Oh god, you can't even really see that. Oh yeah, you can actually. I was looking up here, thinking that was it, but it's not. Okay. Oh, we're getting there. This is a CBD kind of deal. And there are HABs in here, like habitation centres, domiciles is the word that I keep on thinking of. But a lot of it is just businesses and kind of maybe 80% businesses, 10% warehouses, 10% domicile, residential. Not that, I think it's called Euclidean zoning. I don't think, like, it's, once again, don't even have a greatest grasp of what do they call it, Euclidean geometry. But as far as I can tell, it's like a binary system, right? Like, Euclidean geometry, numbers are defined. And if they are defined as one thing, then they are also defined as not another thing. That's my very, very basic, like, kind of take on it. Non-Euclidean gaming is where it sort of plays with not only the stories of what's going on in the game, but also the mechanics are very easily malleable. They aren't defined as any one thing. Once again, do not quote me on it. I am, like, not a numbers boy. But, kind of like how that's all coming out. That's cool. And Euclidean zoning is like, if it's defined as, like, business, then it is not residential. That's my basic understanding of it. I don't think that happens in these sorts of places. I think there's a town planners guild, but it's like in its infancy, and it's more centered on how can we build this cathedral without killing everyone around it, is the basic idea. That's more like my take on what town planning would be in a, like, once again, in this kind of weird setting. Australia is much more like, I think I said it in the last video. It's meant to be like a high fantasy stock standard, like, medieval setting. Having said that, because it's kind of the main idea at the moment. Just need to test this pen now. What am I doing in the middle of it here? Oh no, it's still going okay. Might just be the fact it's running over. Lead pencil. Kind of like how all of this little bit's turning out. That's interesting. And I also think it might be because there's different line weights all kind of mixed in. Maybe that's the idea. I don't know. Anyway, just trying to develop a visual sensibility, you know? Because I don't have much of... Well, I do have one. But not like... It's not like fine-tuned like some of the artists I know. This is a pretty interesting building. Yeah, but so yeah, I think it's all kind of mixed in together. I think there's like residential enclaves, but they're very small and they're just mixed in. With the warehouses and things like that are going on. Could be batting an hour on this one or more. I think I'm not going to do... I was playing with the idea of doing like water effects and stuff, but I don't think I will be doing that. Geez, that stands out way better on the screen, doesn't it? I mean, there's a reason why things get inked in and don't just stay as pencil, I guess. I think this was originally going to be a university or something in the middle of all of these little bits and pieces. I don't think I actually made that many notes. I've got a few broad notes on this, but a lot of it, see, it's also, for me, I think of it as like a conversation, like this sort of shit between, or world building. I think it's a conversation between different kinds of like media or creation methods. Like I'll start with my little set of world building and design rules, and I'll go, right, what's this thing here? You know, it's a city, okay. And I might do like this setup that I've got over here to give you an idea is just data cards, just hundreds and hundreds of data cards. And I will take a data card and I will write a short description on it. I've got a couple. Look, I've got my vintage trinkets deck there. And it does... Oh, that's probably a better way of doing it, eh? You know, and it's just got a little tiny description on there. And that's just me there writing things out. I'll do that for... Pretty much this is the starting point for anything that I do. Look, there's Australia. Australia, minimum quality threshold. I don't actually... Yeah, it does have Bryan's Bay. The inner chain, and then it's got, I think, the mid-belt. Yeah, so there's just a little tiny description of the various... Like any location, it can be down to... Because I've got a template system as well. And that's where the template starts. Like, I'll go, okay, what is this? It's a location. I'll write out something like that for it, and because it's so small, it's only, a dozen lines or 13 lines or something. And that'll be the starting point. I've captured a basic idea of the aesthetic, the mood, the whatever. And then from there, I'll go, okay, how does that, and then the map comes, and I'll go, right, now that I've established the basic mood and the tone and all of that sort of stuff, how does that slot into or how does a map best display that mood or that basic idea. And the cards, I could do a whole video just on the cards, and I probably will in the future. But I'm going to be sitting here playing with decks of cards and stuff at some point, I'm sure. It ends up being a like, it's long enough to give me an idea, but it's not overly long, and it is and because it's so short, the other thing is it only takes a couple of minutes to do, so I can do those even when I'm not feeling that motivated, right? Like, I can sit down and do a couple of those in a few minutes, or if I've just got, I usually do them before games. I'll roll up to my spot a bit early, and I'll do where I'm playing the game, and I'll sit down, I'll get set up, I'll sit down, have a glass of water, and I'll write out 2 or 3 of them. And then that just gives me a basic framework, and then I can do things, and then either I'll draw like the map in the case of a location, or I can pull out, I'll do an A5 journal on it, like a more in-depth description, and that'll usually be what goes into the map key or the game text or whatever. Yeah. And I've also found that, like, the map is usually when it starts getting serious, because you take that little tiny blueprint and it balloons out to this, and that might take me 2 minutes to write, or a minute to write if I'm really cranking, and then this will take me, I think I drew this in maybe 45 minutes or something. And that's when, and now I've got a fully fledged location. Then the third part of that is to put it into software, scan it in, and this is the part where I sort of I need to get better at that bit, because I'm horrible at digitization. I handwrite, like these, they're all handwritten. The idea with handwriting is that it helps me remember, and it's not as sterile. It's very much full ideation. I'm just gonna... We'll hold that thought. I'm just going to go off and blow my nose. I'll be right back, though. I'm only going to be like 30 seconds or so. Okay. I'm back. Just had to, blow my nose. Got a refill of water and stretched my legs. So thank you for your patience. Yeah. So yeah, you end up with rules, flashcard, synopsis, map, or whatever the next stage of that is. And the thing with that, right, I think the idea, I mentioned full ideation. Very much a fan of full ideation, but the catch is that you've then got to winnow that down to the point where you've captured like all the good, cool, weird, funky ideas, right? But you don't want to have to then overdo it and develop that whole thing out, because that's when we start getting into, you know, over preparing and burning out and all of that sort of jazz. So you've got to be careful from there. Oh, jeepers, I knew that was going to happen. That's alright, that bridge suffered catastrophic damage. Yeah, so there is always like, I love, you know, there have been a number of books, you know, I was even thinking about doing, you know, like book reviews. I've got a pretty big library of gaming related books, and not only hard copies, but PDFs. I've got a pretty big PDF library as well. And, you know, I'm thinking about things like Sly Flourish, like Return of the Lazy DM, things like that. Like, love the books, and this culture of, like, don't over-prepare. Don't burn out, don't, you know, don't overdo it, basically. Because the idea is that you know, it's great fun, right? Like, and I actually, like, as someone who writes, like, I actually enjoy the world building and the writing and stuff. It's not that I don't enjoy the actual game and the player interaction and stuff, like, but that is to me, that's a cool add-on, right? You get to do things like this, and, you know, videos and stuff, and then from there you then get to take it and go and hang out with your mates and explore. And if they're, you know, and a lot of the time it's just them knocking down the sandcastle, but it's an imaginary sandcastle, so it's alright. But it's not what I'm there, like, I wouldn't be able to do that if I didn't enjoy the building so much, so it becomes this tension between, like I say, like full ideation, letting your imagination run wild and all of that, and then the optimization of like the lazy DM method and the don't over prepare sort of deal. Only prepare what the players are going to interact with and stuff. You know. The catch being, of course, if you present them with this, you know, like what is essentially a sandbox, you then get to, you know, they can see and appreciate the work that you've put in. Having said that, we know that, you know, them appreciating the full enormity of the work you put in isn't always the case. So yeah, there is a tension between full ideation, full, you know, all the weird and wonderful ideas that you can have. So it becomes a matter of like good note keeping etiquette. Like I say, data cards, it takes you a minute, you know, to write down an idea, and then you can throw it on the pile. Costs you $4 for a packet of data cards, and they are some of the greatest tools in my particular DM kit. And I'll go through the data cards with like my little template system on, so I can go out with a data card container. Like I even have like a leather made data card holder that I bought off Etsy, and that's one of the this thing gets used all the time. It's got holds them in the back, holds about a dozen at max capacity, and it holds maybe 3 or 4 in the front here. I've got blank ones in there now. You can put lined ones, and I'll take that out. It fits in your pocket, and I'll take that out and just write, you know, when I'm wandering around and getting my vitamin D in. And then you put them in the plastic card box, and you can, once I haven't even gotten up to it, but I can imagine that it'll be fairly easy to index them, you know, and I can start building, like you end up building the world, and you haven't written like an epic, you've gone kind of wide, just not deep, and then you've got the ability to go deep on whatever the characters want to engage with in that particular game. So that's part of my little GM philosophy. You don't over prepare, but definitely, you know, put in, I think it might even be, I don't know, is it between full ideation and, you know, and just keeping them as ideas, like barely enunciated ideas that you can then come back to and properly utilize when the time comes, as opposed to just building up every single idea that you ever have. Maybe that's what I'm trying to get at. This thing's starting to look a bit skinny, so yeah. But yeah, no, it's, and then from there, you know, and then you've basically got, you know, I can chop this up into, you know, all sorts of maps, are like sub maps of a certain island or region, or you know, down to the building or whatever. I mean, that stuff's not rocket science. That's how that would generally be the next evolution. You know, I remember Like one of the first games that my group had in here. They came in and they just followed the left bank up into this little area here. This is like a boutique shopping district catering for the lower city, and they found a necrobotanist in there. Necrobotanist had all sorts of weird and wonderful items for them. And it became a pretty big fixture in that game. Not that that game lasted for particularly long, but yeah. Just goes to show, yeah, there's a granularity to it. That you can utilize. Okay, we're almost there. It's taken me a little bit over an hour. This is the longest stream yet. I've just got to do this last bit. I'm not going to bother inking in the labels, I don't think, but they will still be on there for when I scan it in. I mean, I'm just scanning them in with my iPhone, like not the old webcam iPhone, but like I'm just taking a photo. Oh yeah. Gonna start pushing this pen a bit. Although I knew, these 0.01, I knew I'd be using these quite a lot, so I've bought like 3 or 4 of them. I think when I bought that pack of uni pins, I think I actually bought 2 pairs of 0.01. I bought an extra pair of 0.01s for a total of 3 because I knew that this was going to be a pretty common width to use. So I've got reloads, but I'm just going to try and re-dig them or get my most use out of them, I guess, is the main part. I am gonna use this big fat one to put a line across there to indicate the entrance to the caves. Yeah, so I don't know, that's the start of the world building process anyway for me. And like I say, it's a bit of a back and forth process. It's never just as simple. Sometimes I just start out just drawing a map, and then afterwards I'll go, so what is that? But I mean, most of the time I find it's easiest just to have a couple of rules in place for when I want to do it. That's going to be, that little island there is going to be something cool, I can tell. You know, because it's isolated, and isolated islands in the middle of otherwise populated areas are always spooky. Or that's where my mind goes anyway. But yeah, Yeah, I find it generally like, and a lot of it is just building up the framework for what the next step is, and then where you go from like the framework, if you think of the framework as going wide, and you're sort of just giving more structure to everything, scaffolding that. That's what they were calling it in academia whilst I was involved in that. If you scaffold it out, and then you end up and then when you go wide, and then you go wide when it's you're just kind of laying in the broad layers, the rules, and then the map and the little bits and pieces, and then when you go deep is what the players exhibit interest in. That's when you go, oh, okay, you guys are interested in the necrobotanist, so let's explore him. And depending on how much input they want to have, you can provide it all, or you can let them paint it in. That's been my take on that. Okay, I think I remember. So these, I might have to get that broader pen out for these things, because these are big mineral deposits, and I think that one was a river, or a little rivulet that we'd found, and they were filtering it into, or letting it, because it ran into the main river system, and they were filtering it to try and figure out what those minerals did. And this was, I think this area over here is like a bit of an R&D sort of site for a lot of these businesses. So I mean, another, even doing this video sort of deal. I mean, I can't exactly draw dungeons. I don't want to draw dungeons and be like, oh, okay, none of my players look. I mean, that... And I know I have no delusions of my own, like, appeal. I know that not millions of people are watching this, and it is unlikely that my players will see it. But I don't know, it just seems kind of... I mean, they are created bespoke dungeons for my groups. So yeah, I don't know, maybe just not. Maybe I'll do the towns and the safe zones, or the quote-unquote green zones. Not that they're ever completely green zones, but yeah. Definitely getting a bit skinny here. I think this pen might be on its last legs, which is okay. I mean, part of the reason I wanted to, start mapping is because I've got 1,000,001 pens that I sort of need to work my way through. Yeah, look at this. There's a wall here. There's a big wall right here, across here. So that this is meant to be a restricted area up here. They found something. 2 big gates, so that'll be for the wagons or whatever, the R&D, like it's not just personnel wandering through there. Oh, and this looks like a big... So that'll be like a big glass-fronted building built into the side of the area, the wall. Okay, so we're just going to do this bit now. So not long to go. What are we at? An hour and a quarter. So, but I'll have inked in the entire map. So that's pretty good. Okay. Oh, yep. Alright. And then I'm gonna go back to the 0.3 for these sample pieces. Oh yeah, see, this was a new pen yesterday, so I had another 0.3. God, I've got to get better at my dashed lines too, I think. Yeah, I had a 0.3 yesterday during my abortive first attempt at streaming, and it died, or it started getting low. So, and in true pack rat fashion, I've got I've got 3 almost dead pens there, but I find that they're useful for doing like scuffed up map effects and whatnot when I'm like, I'll probably end up doing some forests or something and just experimenting with burned out pens just to wring the last of them, and maybe it can be like a madman's scrawl or something. Before I chuck them, because they're not quite dead. They're not just like, they're running at like 70%. But this is a new pen, and this is like much nicer than that other one was just at the end there. So looks like we're starting to break down the backlog of pens. Okay, I think that's about it. If I've missed anything, I will go back in and ink it up. Oh, there's a couple of little... But apart from that, there we go. That is a fully inked in map, which I'm quite happy with. And I'll leave the labels uninked, and they can go in. I'll label everything properly. There's probably, I mean, you can see there's a couple of labels around. They're just the major bits, but yeah, I'll be labeling. You know, I've already got ideas. Like, that's going to be the axe head. I don't know what that's going to be. Probably Brain Matter Island, because someone, it looks like, yeah, because, you know, it's got to be automatically as violent as possible, right? Yeah, but there we go. another one matte and inked. And then just to give you a look, this is right at the end, I think. So that's the old map. Is that the old? No, that was another. So there's other towns in here. You know, there's Solaris. That was another one that I'm gonna ink in, but probably not on stream. But this is the Caldera. And there's like, so the smaller circle in there is the bottom of it, and then there's the side of it. It's had a rock fall, which was demonstrated in God. Anyway, never mind. Yeah, but there's the Caldera, and these are the sides of the mountains. There's a little Druid's Grove down here. There's a couple of little platforms built on the magma chimneys and whatnot, or smoke or there's like side branching. It's not just like a volcano isn't just one central vent. There's like chimneys out the side. So that's what these are. Yeah, so I'll be inking that one in tomorrow, although something tells me it's not going to be as much, because like 60% of that map is just white space. But yeah, and then after that I'll probably do a video where I screen share sorting it all together, like linking it all together and explaining it. And then I'll move on to Brian's Bay, and then hopefully then we've built the momentum, so to speak. But thank you for joining me for the last hour and a half or so. And I will I'll catch up with you later.